Joining me now from Washington is CBS News contributor and Washington Post reporter Ed O'Keefe. Ed, we are seeing from your newspaper what strong support in polls that the president still has among his base. What have we learned about his rally yesterday? How did that fare?
It looks so much like all the campaign rallies he did last year that drew his most ardent supporters out into the late night to see him. And, clearly the president gets jazzed by being in that environment, as all presidents do when they travel. But this one seems to especially. And this was a real classic of the genre, where he went after the media, he went after Democrats. He made clear that he's keeping his promises and will continue to do so. And the crowd seemed to lap it up and love everything that they heard. He will continue to do these. He has done a few of them over the first 100 days. And, we will see whether that support holds. It has remarkably so, remarkably in the sense that it's so consistent. It doesn't increase and it hasn't decreased. It's all still there. And it's a sign that the White House is very much concerned about and focused on keeping that support in place. And that's why you see him pushing for Congress to get a health care bill done, to start work on tax reform. The reason he goes after, frankly, the news media, because he knows that we're an unpopular institution and an easy target for him as he talks about the troubles that have been created, as he begins his presidency. So, I think last night was just merely a good opportunity for him to rally that base, make sure they're still with him, and it sure seems like they are.
And, looking ahead beyond the 100 days, health care, as you mentioned, top of the president's agenda. Sunday morning, President Trump tweeted that Obamacare is dead and that a new health care plan is on its way. Do Republicans have enough agreement on this to get a new bill passed?
No, they don't, frankly. We don't know that they have the votes in the House just yet to pass some kind of a replace and repeal plan. And we know that in the Senate, Republicans are incredibly reluctant to take it up, believing that if it can just be killed off over in the House, that would be better for everyone, because no matter what the House sends over, it will be changed in the Senate, because the politics of the Senate are such that more conservative, dramatic changes to the Affordable Care Act are not going to be seen as acceptable among senators or able to pass, frankly. You're going to need to eventually find some Democratic support for some kind of an overhaul. And there is general Democratic support to make changes to the Affordable Care Act, but not in the ways that Republicans are pushing for. There was hope to have a vote last week. It fell through. It may happen this week, but the House then goes on recess the following week. So at this point, unless they can somehow put together an agreement in the next few days, it probably doesn't happen until late May, which actually may be a good thing, because it may allow negotiators a little more time to really sort through the details, get a firm understanding of who's for this, and maybe even get the Senate starting to think about what exactly they would do. But the other issue to keep an eye on, Rena, in the coming weeks and months is tax reform. Once health care is out of the way, and as the White House sees it, once it's passed, they will move on to that. That's another issue where there's general Republican support for making changes, but the details will be incredibly tricky. The goal at this point is for the White House to do something on taxes, bold, big, along the lines of what was done in the 1980s by Ronald Reagan, by the end of this year. But given the amount of work it takes, they're already behind schedule, in part because health care has been slowing everything down.
And on the foreign policy front, something that really surprised me overnight, the president has invited President Duterte of the Philippines to the White House. Reince Priebus says the country could play a key role in dealing with North Korea. Duterte himself has said that he has murdered people.
Yeah.
Is this the right policy that the White House should be seeking right now?
There was some real consternation about this when word of the phone call came last night, and it's along the lines of the phone call he had last weekend with the president of Turkey. The idea that the president is talking to and having what the White House is describing as good, amicable conversations with guys who are seen around the world, frankly, as, dictatorial or despotic, who have gone after their own people with no regard for due process or for human rights in some cases. The situation in the Philippines has caused great concern across the world. And it's notable that he not only talked to Duterte last night, but he was also planning to talk today, Sunday, with the leaders of Singapore and Thailand. It may be that there is a broader conversation going on with Asian countries about what they can do to put pressure on North Korea. I think all that, coupled with what the president said about the Chinese president to John Dickerson in the Face the Nation interview, signals that this White House really is quite focused on it right now and trying to figure out a way diffuse the situation and ensure that North Korea doesn't continue testing its missiles.
The Washington Post, your newspaper, has analysis out suggesting that the president may be interested in consolidating his power, citing his comments about Senate rules. What exactly is he referring to here, Ed?
Well, and that was one of the more striking things he said in this Face the Nation interview today, the idea that he's frustrated by the way the Senate works, that there's that filibuster that requires in some cases at least 60 senators to agree to proceed to final passage of legislation. It's a procedural check on legislation designed to slow debate down. It's been there really for more than 200 years, and that's the beauty of the Senate, is that it is the legislative body that sort of requires more thoughtful, drawn-out debate. But the president seems impatient with it. Remember, he got his Supreme Court nominee, Neil Gorsuch, confirmed, but he only did it after the Senate changed the rules and how exactly Supreme Court nominees are confirmed. They got rid of the filibuster for nominees. What he's beginning to signal more and more, and what will be incredibly troubling to senators of both parties, is that the Senate should move to get rid of the filibuster on legislation as well. Currently, there's no support for that in either party, or not enough of it. But if the president keeps it up, if he tells his supporters to call senators and tell them that they should support ending the filibuster, one wonders if it won't happen sooner. That would be seen as an incredible consolidation of power, an ability to really change the rules in order to fit his priorities. I just don't think at this point, though, that Republicans in the Senate are willing to do that. And I suspect this is one of the few things where they really would stand up to him and say, you have no say in this. We're a separate branch of the government. You're not going to tell us how to do our job.
That will be a powerful message to the president as well. Washington Post reporter Ed O'Keefe, thank you for joining us, Ed.
Take care, Rena.